Hello students, welcome back to my YouTube channel Civil Edu Next. Myself Maitri Dave, Assistant Professor at LJ Institute of Engineering and Technology. Let us begin our lecture for Civil Engineering Materials, right? So let us begin our lecture number 7 for that. But before that, let us recall what we have learned in previous lecture. So in previous lecture, we have learned epoxy, fly ash, copper slag and the steel slag, right? So now for today's lecture, what we are going to discuss. So basically, we are going to discuss two topics in which the first material is all about bitumen and the second material is all about the smart materials, right? So without wasting much time, let us begin with the first material, bitumen. So here, when I want to talk about bitumen, the first question that arises that what is bitumen, right? It means what we have to discuss is introduction to bitumen. Then we will see the classification of bitumen. Then we will see the functions of bitumen and lastly the properties of bitumen material, right? So let us begin with introduction to bitumen, right? So here I can say bituminous material or bitumen is a solid, semi-solid or viscous cementitious material, or we can say a binder, natural or manufactured and composed of hydrocarbons as shown in this figure. So bitumens are usually fairly hard at normal temperature, but when heated, they soften and flows, right? So bitumen possesses a number of properties that makes them useful in the construction industries, right? So when mixed with the aggregate in their hot fluid state and then allowed to cool, they solidify and bind the aggregates together, forming a pavement surface as shown in this figure, right? So that's all for the bitumen. Now, let us discuss the classification of bitumen. So here basically, these are classified into 4 types, in which the first one is the asphalt. So here I can say it is defined as natural or artificial mixture in which the bituminous, or we can say the bituminous, is associated with the inert mineral matter, right? It is black or brownish black in color, right? Now, let us move to the second type, which is tar. So here, tar is also one of the important bituminous material, which is produced by destructive distillation of organic material such as coal, oil, lignite, peat and wood. So it is black to dark brown in color, right? Now, let us move to the next term, which is cutback. So here, for cold applications, as in case of repairing cracks in the roofs, floors, asphalt mixed with a liquid solvent and then it is called as the cutback asphalt, right? So it is obtained by fluxing asphaltic bituminous, or we can bitumen, in presence of some suitable liquid distillations of coal, tar and the petroleum, right? So that's all for the cutback. Now let us understand the last type, which is emulsion. So here again, for the cold applications, asphalt is available in the form of emulsion. So it is a liquid product containing bitumen to a great extent in an aqueous medium, right? So that's all for the emulsion. So here we have understand classification of bitumen, where these are the products at different stage, having different properties, right? Which are asphalt, tar, cutback and the emulsion, right? Now, let us move back to the bitumen concept, where now we are going to discuss about functions of bituminous material. So for that, I can say the first term is the binding effect. Here, the bituminous binds the surface particles together, right? So it is a binding agent. Then, if I want to talk about the second effect, it means it acts as a fusion, where it acts as a fusioning material on the surface and absorb impact, friction as well as different load due to movement of the wheels of vehicle on the road, right? So that is a good quality. Now the next function is of sealing of surface. So when used with a dense graded angular material, it seals the surface of the road against ingress of water, right? It means it can provide us the waterproofing effect sometimes, right? And lastly, it is act as a resistance to weathering agents. It means what? So if the bituminous material is selected properly and is used in road construction, can restrict effectively, or we can say its actions of weathering agents like the wind and sun can be a useful one, right? So that's all for the functions of bituminous material, like a binding agent, as a cushion or sealing surface, and resistance to weathering agent, right? Now, here you can see we have already discussed three terms. Now let us go to the properties of bituminous material. Now for the properties, I can say the viscosity of the bitumen at the time of mixing and compaction should be adequate. It should possess sufficient adhesion with the aggregate in the mix of presence of water. Even the presence of water and the bitumen should not strip off from the aggregates, right? It should be combined or sticky together. Then the bituminous material should not be highly temperature suspicious, right? It should maintain sufficient flexibility and thus avoid cracking of bituminous surfaces, right? And lastly, I can say it should also maintain the stability under adverse weather conditions. So these all are the properties for a good bituminous material, right? So in bituminous, or we can say in bitumen, we have understand its introduction, its classification, its functions, which is very important, and lastly the properties, right? Now let us move to the second topic for today's lecture, which is all about smart materials, right? So now for smart materials, I can say that smart or intelligent material are the material that have to respond to stimuli and the environmental changes and to activate their functions according to these changes, right? So the stimuli like temperature, pressure, electric flow, magnetic flow, light, mechanical, etc. can originate internally or externally. So I can say that we are going to discuss the classification of materials and the application of this kind of materials in detail. So let us discuss first the classification of smart material, right? So here the first type is all about piezoelectric materials. The second one is all about electrostatic materials. Third one is all about magnostatic materials. The fourth one is the shape memory alloy, and fifth one is the thermochromic materials, right? So these all are the classification. Now let us understand all one by one, right? So let us understand first. First one is the piezoelectric materials. Means when subjected to an electric charge or a variation in voltage, piezoelectric material will undergo some mechanical change and vice versa. Here on screen you can see different materials are look like this. So these events are called the direct or the converse effects, right? That is the concept of piezoelectric materials. Now let us move to the second one, which is all about electrostatic materials. So these materials has the same properties as piezoelectric material, but the mechanical change is proportional to the square of the electric field. So these characteristics will always produce displacement in same direction as shown in this figure, right? So that's all for the electrostatic materials. Now let us understand the third one, which is magnetostatic materials. So here, when subjected to a magnetic field and vice versa, means the direct and the converse effect, this material will undergo an induced mechanical strain, right? So this kind of material is look like this, right? Now, if I want to give you a brief idea about the fourth type, which is of shape memory alloy. So here you can see in this figure that metallic material demonstrating the ability to return to some previously defined shape or size when subjected to appropriate thermal change belong to this category of smart materials, right? So here you can see how a building can get or how a material can get to its original shape. So that is the concept of shape memory alloy. Now let us understand the last one, which is thermochromic material. So as you can see on the screen that these are the materials which change their color in response to change in temperature, right? So they have been used in bath plugs that changes color when the bath is too hot, which is very good concept when we talk about the children who don't know that water is a cold one or a hot one, right? So these are the materials that we can wisely use and make our life better, right? So that's all for the classification of smart materials. Now let us understand the applications of smart material. So here for application, I can say it is categorized into three parts, in which the first one is all about smart materials in aerospace. Means the aircraft or the spacecraft which make use of smart materials are known as the smart structures. So we can say the smart materials are used in the aircraft construction, right? If I want to talk about the smart materials in civil engineering applications, then the smart materials can be used in the monitoring of civil engineering structure to assess durability. Again, which is very important. And lastly, if I want to talk about the structural application of smart materials, then smart materials are used for the development of durable and the cost-effective high-performance construction materials. So these are the applications of smart materials, right? So in smart material, we have learned very important things, right? The classification and the application. Now, for today's lecture, we have discussed two basic components like bitumen and smart material in detail. I hope you all understand these two topics in detail, right? See you soon in the next lecture. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe my YouTube channel Civil Education.